To Total Football Talk. I'm Anthony,
I'm Eric.
and we're getting ready to cover the divisional games after talking about the wild card games. The game that I'm most excited about is the first game on the docket, Minnesota at San Francisco. Curious to see if the 49ers are as good as everyone says they are. Curious to see if the Vikings are, still going strong from that upset win over New Orleans. It is really interesting, though, to see how history repeats itself, playing the Saints in New Orleans, going to San Francisco, and undoubtedly both teams, Seattle and Green Bay, want to play in Minnesota, I would think, over San Francisco, but time will tell. I think this game's going to be close, but one game, as Eric has said before, doesn't make a quarterback's career. But for me, it's not one game. Kirk Cousins has a history. And it was a big win. And maybe this is just going to be a magical season like Trent Dilfer's 2000 season, where he does just enough in the postseason to keep his team in it. And they end up winning and keep winning until they win a championship. I don't think Minnesota has that kind of defense. San Francisco plays the type of offense nobody wants to see. And if you want my honest opinion, and it pains me to say this, but if there's an ideal Super Bowl from a football standpoint that I want to see, it's Tennessee, San Francisco. Two teams that run the ball, that you don't want to have to go up against in the fourth quarter, that travels well, with two quarterbacks that have something to prove, one who's been in the league a bit longer, another one who's still got doubters despite his record, but that's 2 weeks down the road. And honestly, I don't foresee that being, as you'll see in a moment, what I think the Super Bowl is going to be. I do think, though, San Francisco has two things going in its favor. It runs the ball, and I think their fullback is going to make all the difference in this game. I think San Francisco wins this one close. I think it's 27-21 49ers in Candlestick.
Candlestick.
I mean, well, you know what I mean, in Santa Clara. And let me just explain why. I think between running the ball, I think between the 49ers defense, their ability to get pressure. Look, Kirk Cousins does not do well when you hit him. And you pressure him. And I just think we're going to see a lot of pressure. So I think at the end of the day, a lot of pressure, a lot of pass rush from Bosa, good coverage from the linebackers on the tight end. He's going to have to hold that ball longer till he gets to the secondary, and Kittle is a man-child out there. He looks a little weird, but he plays better than anybody at that position in professional football right now. So I'm going to go 49ers 27-21 in Santa Clara. Go, E.
I like I do like the game score pick. Listen, there's concern coming out of Vikings camp, to be honest with you, because they have some issues they're dealing with. On Wednesday, Adam Thielen suffered a laceration around his ankle, and he had to go get stitches. And they're saying, hey, we're going to keep him off his feet basically until game time. They have no idea what to expect from Adam Thielen in this game. There's also reports out there that the Cleveland Browns are down to two finalists for their head coaching position. That is Josh McDaniels and the Vikings offensive coordinator, Kevin Stefanski. So you could see like a lot of things are not favoring the Vikings right now, but here's what they have. They have Dalvin Cook, okay? So if Kirk Cousins is feeling any type of pressure, here, Dalvin, here's the ball, go do your thing, okay? I get that. And I understand that, Dalvin can't be a one-man show for this whole game because they're going to need the Vikings to actually pass the ball. And when you have a wide receiver who has not had just one blow-up, but has had two or three blow-ups this year in Stephon Diggs, they were winning in New Orleans, and Stephon Diggs was throwing his helmet into the sideline, and after the Vikings had to punt, they were leading by about 7 or 10 points. And he's taking his helmet off in disgust and throwing it in. Man, you're showing everybody that it doesn't matter if you're winning or losing, you just want you. Okay? That is showing me you're not a team guy. So if Thielen is not 100% and not able to basically do his thing that he's been doing all year for the last 3 years, basically, then they have to rely on Diggs. Because you can't rely on Rudolph too much, and the Vikings really haven't done that this year. So if you're going to rely on Diggs, and let's say Cousins underthrows him or overthrows him, is he going to throw another tantrum?
Probably.
We don't know. We don't know. He probably will. You're right. He probably will. Cousins is going to get pressured. D Ford is coming off of IR. Richard Sherman is probably going to go up against the healthiest wide receiver in Diggs, and they could probably put somebody else on Thielen to maximize San Francisco defense's coverage and Minnesota's offense. So who does that leave? Again, that leaves Cook. So to neutralize San Francisco's rushing attack, maybe a couple of screen passes past the defense when they're really coming down around the edges. And that's a way to neutralize them. So Cook's going to be in line for a monster game as far as touching the ball. And don't be surprised if Alexander Madison, his backup, gets in on the action and maybe breaks a big, long screen pass as well. I mean, he's quick, he's shifty. He's a little bit bigger than Cook, but he's not as good in my opinion. I'm going to 27-17 49ers. I just think they have too much on offense. I think with a three-headed rushing attack, and Emmanuel Sanders, who's been a completely different player on that offense, and then you also have Deebo Samuel, who can run and catch the ball. And there's a guy named George Kittle that Anthony mentioned. He's okay, but I think you're going to get a couple of 2 or 3 Vikings turnovers, and those are going to be converted into points. Also, it's going to be mid to high 50s in Santa Clara, so nobody has to worry about any type of bad weather there this weekend. But 49ers win this one game going away.
And here's the good news, Ram fans. If Minnesota does lose, then the Rams get to interview their DB's coach to be their next D coordinator. Did you hear that, E?
I heard that.
You know who their DB's coach is?
No.
Jerry Gray. Woo! So let's go. Let's go. Hold off another couple of days. All right. Tennessee against Baltimore. That's the other game. A lot of people are picking Tennessee to upset this one. And I got to tell you, Lamar Jackson, everyone's high on Lamar Jackson, but I think I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, but I'm kind of agreeing with a lot of the, and I'm using bunny ears here, experts have said the Mark Ingram loss, I think, is really going to hurt Baltimore because it's going to make them one-dimensional. You no longer have to worry about the run-pass option for Baltimore. And the Titans have Mark Henry. I think this game is prime for an upset. And I'm going to go on a limb here, okay? And I'm going to say that this game is going to be really, really close in the fourth quarter. It's not going to be Lamar Jackson that wins it for Baltimore. It's going to be a pick six by Marcus Peters late in the fourth quarter on Ryan Tannehill that's going to win it for Baltimore. I think the Titans play them tough. I think they're up 17-14 and driving to to go up by 6, maybe even go up by 10 when Marcus Peters picks it off and takes it to the house. I'm going Ravens 21, Titans 17. I think their secondary can shut down those wide receivers, making the Titans one-dimensional. And as good as that dimension may be, and as much as people may not want to hit Mark Henry in the fourth quarter, it's coaching that always comes back and outsmarts itself. And I can totally see the Titans head coach, Vrabel, going, all right, they're expecting Henry here. It's 3rd and 3. We're going to go with Tannehill to our best receiver, our best pass play, here we go, and Peters is going to go, thank you very much, adios via con Dios, get the hell out my home, we're going on to the championship game, and you're going home wondering, should you have run the damn ball, which has been the theme all year long. I like Vrabel, and this will be the mistake that he will never forget. And moving forward, he'll die on that sword, take the 3 points instead of trying to get the first down, and he'll start getting better as he gets along the way. But I just think, I got a gut feeling at some point they're going to put in Tannehill's hands, and the defense of the Ravens is going to be the difference in this game. 21-17 Baltimore.
Yeah, apparently people really haven't watched much Baltimore if that's what the bunny ears experts and bunny ears are saying.
Yep.
Listen, the Ravens led the league in rushing for a reason, because they don't just rely on Lamar Jackson, and yes, he had over 1,000 yards. They don't just rely on Mark Ingram. Yes, he had over 1,000 yards. But they also have 2 other running backs on that team. I'm not saying they're all world beaters, and I'm not saying that they can't be stopped, because yes, they can. But Gus Edwards and Justice Hill are no slouch. I've watched enough Ravens games to know that they can put these guys in at any time, and these guys can actually run the ball with authority and get the necessary yards that are needed to move the chains. Okay? So, yes, a lot of it's going to be in Lamar Jackson's hands. And Mike Vrabel, he can use the spy. He can do whatever he wants. But, oh, goodness gracious, Lamar Jackson also led the league in touchdown passes, too, this year. So he can throw it. Yes, Mark Ingram is questionable with a calf injury. Mark Andrews is questionable with an ankle issue. I expect both to play. Schefter thinks that Ingram's going to play. The Ravens beat writer Jamison Hensley isn't as optimistic that he's going to play. But I'll tell you this. Weather may be a big factor in this game. And it is going to benefit more the ground game. And currently, the least banged-up amount of running backs belong to the Tennessee Titans. Okay? But as Anthony pointed out, yes, it's going to have to come into Ryan Tannehill's hands. And I do think Henry does have another good game. Not as good against the Patriots, but another good game where he's got over 100 and a touchdown on the ground. Now, he might actually get a majority of those yards in the first half as well, because the Ravens are still trying to figure out, hey, what's going on here? Yes, we've been off 2 weeks. Some of us didn't play week 17, so, we have to figure out, where our team is at this time, and John Harbaugh's going to make those adjustments. But I think even if it is raining, I still think we've seen Lamar play in rain against San Francisco, which I think was a better test at this time, because they can look back at that film and say, okay, we got the Titans, they're kind of built the same way. Hence Anthony's Super Bowl pick that he would love to see. But I think the Ravens win this one. I don't think it's as close, but I like it 24-10.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So we go to the Sunday games. I'll start with Green Bay, Seattle, and there's a reason. Because after we do Kansas City, Houston, I want to ask you a question that I asked some guys at work, and I got some really stupid friggin' responses. Okay. First and foremost, Green Bay, Seattle. I think it's hilarious that people are talking about Seattle doesn't really have a good shot. I mean, the running game was non-existent. It's going to be bad weather in Green Bay. The Packers' running game is better than the Seahawks' running game. Aaron Rodgers, and I'm sitting there going, you really believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to allow his head coach to run the ball in this game? That when push comes to shove, and it's Aaron Rodgers for 6 or the other Aaron Jones running it in for 6, you really think that Aaron Rodgers is going to allow a running touchdown until they have a substantial lead, or at least they have a lead? Like, Aaron Rodgers is going to be determined to get his, and that's what's going to hurt him. And I'll tell you something else. Clowney injured Carson Wentz in the last game. Clowney is going to get a penalty in this game unjustifiably so, for no apparent reason, because they're going to want to protect Aaron Rodgers. And I fear that it's going to come at a crucial moment and extend a Green Bay drive and get them a lead late. The problem is they're going to leave too much time on the clock for Russell Wilson. And I'm sorry, outside of Jari Alexander in Green Bay, there ain't nobody on that defense that scares me. And I know they had a couple of pass rushers last year that did really well. And they did well this year against subpar competition. But you're approaching a completely different animal in Russell Wilson. And I think Russell Wilson gets outside the pocket, extends a couple of plays. He's going to get that big play downfield. DK Metcalf, somebody, who knows, maybe somebody we've never even friggin' heard of, because after all, it is Russell Wilson. And I think that Russell Wilson rips the heart out of Lambeau with 3 seconds to go with a touchdown strike to go up 27-24. I think it's going to be 24-20 before that happens, and I think Green Bay wins it or loses it after taking the lead with less than 2 minutes to go, 24-20, because of bad officiating. I think Russell Wilson is going to win it with less than 10 seconds to go, and Seattle beats Green Bay in Green Bay 27-24 in a game that a lot of people are going to be like, wow, there was a lot more points scored in this type of weather than I thought there would be. And I'm expecting Marshawn Lynch to start to get a little warmer. Like a locomotive just starting out of the gate, it's kind of been. I'm expecting by the fourth quarter that machine's going to start rolling. And he may make some key plays on that drive as Seattle goes into Lambeau and the Packers lose at home to Seattle 27-24. E, take it away.
All right. I hope you guys like stats, because I'm about to throw a whole bunch of stats out at you to start this off. From 1939 to 2002, Green Bay at home in the playoffs were 13-0. Unprecedented. Talk about a home field advantage. The Atlanta Falcons went in there in the playoffs in 2002, of the 2002 season, went in there, wiped the slate with the Packers. 27-7. Yes, that was Michael Vick that did that. Since the Falcons went in there and beat them, the Packers are now 5-5 at home in the playoffs. Okay? The Green Bay Packers have beaten the Seattle Seahawks 8 straight times at Lambeau. That's going back to the early 2000s. Russell Wilson has had some of his worst performances in Green Bay. Back in 2015, in the regular season, he actually posted his best passer rating against the Packers in Green Bay in a 27-17 loss. 2 touchdowns, a pick, 91.8 passer rating. In the following season, 2016, Packers beat the crap out of Seattle 38-10. Russell Wilson, 1 touchdown, 5 picks, a quarterback rating of 43.7. It was so bad that the Seahawks were like, hey, you know what, we're going to go back to Green Bay. And we're going to lose 17-9. And his passer rating there was 69.7. No touchdowns, no picks through the air for Russell Wilson. So the Seahawks are very, very banged up at this point in time. The Seahawks, without Chris Carson and without C.J. Prosise, are averaging 1.2 yards per carry. That is so bad that Vegas has looked at this game and said, oh, Green Bay is a 4.5-point favorite. Guys, whatever Anthony just said, think the complete opposite. Sorry, bro. I can't agree with you on this game whatsoever, and it kills me as a Bears fan to even say this. But put whatever you want on this game and enjoy the Packers' blowout victory. 38-17, yes, Rodgers will get his. The weather will actually have subsided when this game starts late Sunday night, because they're expecting snow Friday night through Saturday, and that snow to stop at least through Sunday morning. So yes, it could linger, but they do a pretty good job of getting the tarp on the field and whatnot. So, yes, it's going to be cold. Seattle doesn't care about cold. They had a really good road record this year, but they're banged up. Offensive line is in pieces. Green Bay is at one of the healthiest times right now. And yes, Rodgers will get his. Aaron Jones will get his. And even if Aaron Rodgers is like, well, I'm going to throw this touchdown, you know who he's going to throw it to? Yeah, he's going to go throw it to a wide open Aaron Jones running down the left sideline or a Devontae Adams right over the middle. That's who he's throwing to. He don't care about anybody else. There's only one drafted wide receiver on that team in Marquez Valdez-Scantling. But you know what? In the last 8 games, he's caught 3 passes. He actually has a better rapport right now with an undrafted wide receiver named Alan Lazard. Have you ever heard about him? Don't worry. Not a lot of people have. But he's the only one with more catches, and Jimmy Graham is a shell. It's easy to say this, but the Packers run away with this game easily.
Wow. Well, what the hell do I know? I picked the Bengals to go to the championship game this year, so,
That's true.
But, then again, you picked the Giants to go to the Super Bowl, so, we're batting 1,000 in the last 2 years. All right.
I didn't pick the Giants to go last year.
Okay, 3 years ago, whatever it was, 2 years ago. As far as this game, I want to save this game for last because I have a question at the end of it. So, I've been going first the whole time. Do you want to take this one first, or do you want to go last since I have a question at the end of this?
I'll go first. That's
Okay.
fine. This is the game that I'm most interested in. Actually, out in Chicago, this has been dubbed the son of a Mitch Bolt 2. No, I did not swear. But this is the only game on the slate this weekend that actually happened during the regular season. And I'm curious to see how the Texans approach this game, considering they've already went to KC and won this year. And with that, they're expecting some snow in Kansas City. It'll probably be gone by game time. But, with J.J. Watt back, I think that gives the Texans quite a bit of hope going into this game. I'm sure they're hoping they can use him more, have him play more snaps, and actually have him disrupt Patrick Mahomes in the pocket. Not necessarily take him down, but just maybe make some bad throws. Now, when these teams met earlier in the year, Houston actually prevailed, as I mentioned. Deshaun Watson had a touchdown, a couple of picks, 2 rushing touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes threw 3 touchdowns. 2 of them went to Tyreek Hill, who was actually coming back off of injury. And from week 1 against the Jaguars, when he went out with a hamstring, and this was his first game back, 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. So right off the bat, that the Texans have a concern with not only Kelsey, because he's a handful himself, but Tyreek Hill. So much so that in the first game, Sammy Watkins did not play. I'm expecting Sammy Watkins to have actually a pretty good game this week, because he's going to be the third option who won't be who's only going to get single coverage, and it's going to benefit the Kansas City Chiefs. The Texans are going to obviously go with the Watson to Hopkins connection, but I'm going to be interested to see how Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson react in this game. And I want to see if they're playing scared, if they're playing timid, or if they're going to go all balls out. And I say this because they know everything's on the line, and I'm hoping that I see changes being made during the game by Bill O'Brien. Because if he's actually making changes, there's a good shot that the Texans can walk out of there with a victory. And it's the closest game that I think could be an upset. So much so that the Texans are going to be leading 27-24 midway through the fourth quarter, and Patrick Mahomes leads a game-winning touchdown drive to win the game 31-27.
Okay. Well, as you guys know, Andy Dalton has been my favorite quarterback in the NFL for a very long time. But he's kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit due to injury, due to just being kind of on a bad team and just kind of playing. I think he's played too long. I think Andy Dalton should have retired 2 years ago when he had that really good year but injured his thumb, and Cincinnati just missed the playoffs. That was kind of a good last hurrah for him, and I think he played too long. As far as sheer enjoyment, the two quarterbacks that I enjoy watching the most are in each conference. Now, obviously, the NFC, that's Jared Goff for me. Being a Ram fan, I think we got a pretty good quarterback. But I would have to say, hands down, my favorite quarterback in the AFC, and maybe my favorite quarterback in the NFL, is playing in this game. I have not spoken about this individual very much over the last couple of years because I'm a wait and see. See how they play, see if their game transitions. But I follow a lot of Big 12 football. I follow a lot of ACC football. I follow a lot of SEC football. And obviously Pac-12. I love college football. But this kid has, in both these quarterbacks, you're not going to know who I'm talking about for a bit because they're very similar. But this kid has a never-ending smile. It doesn't matter the situation. He's just dirt yard football, gritty. He'll play tackle football on gravel if he has to. He loves the game. He's never out of it. And you should be nervous when you play this team because although he doesn't run as much as others, his escapability is extremely fearful. The quarterback that I'm talking about is Deshaun Watson.
Shocking.
Well, Mahomes fit every one of that criteria.
I knew exactly who you were talking about the moment you started talking.
Yeah. Well, maybe
Let you finish.
maybe out there you didn't.
I've been talking about Watson since when he was supposed to get drafted by the Bears.
Yeah.
And you know that. I've done this on numerous times on the show, and I know you kind of reserved yourself with talking about Watson, but I knew you liked the kid.
I do. And for me, my standard rule for quarterbacks is simple. You have to have played more than 1 year in college football. And I'm going to wait till your third year before I make an educated decision on your play. Lamar...
Trubisky's out.
Yeah, Trubisky's garbage. I mean, Lamar Jackson, everyone said he had a great rookie year. I beg to differ. I think he had a terrible rookie year. I think he benefited from a bad team and people not sure what Baltimore was going to do. He's had a really good year this year. Obviously, he's going to be the MVP. But I also do kind of like Patrick Mahomes, but not as much. The problem with not Lamar Jackson, with Deshaun Watson is there's not a lot around him. Will Fuller is still banged up. He's got what I think is the best receiver in football, but he's got no running game. He's got no real tight end to throw to, and he's still winning games and kind of doing some things. I know they went into Kansas City and won, but when I look at this game, I look at the quarterbacks and I go, dead even. I look at the O-lines and I go, slight advantage for Houston. I look at the D-line and I go, slight advantage for Houston. Secondary and linebackers, slight advantage Kansas City. Receivers, advantage Kansas City. Wash, sorry. I look at tight end, clear advantage Kansas City. Special teams is a wash. For me, what I'm looking at is coaching. And Andy Reid, I'm sorry, Bill O'Brien couldn't butter his toast, okay? So that concerns me. So as I look at this game unfold, I think it's going to be kind of close, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Houston jumped out to a 14-7 lead. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as you think it is. I think these defenses are going to rise up. I think these quarterbacks are going to struggle, and I think it's going to be a lot of, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of drop passes. At the end of the day, I think that Kansas City is just has a little bit too much more than Houston does. Second half adjustments, you name it. I'm actually going to go 24-17 Kansas City, or maybe even 24-21. It could be that close. But I just think at the end of the day, it's going to be a Mahomes fourth quarter comeback, or tie. The game's tied and he pulls away, something like that, because it's 17-17 late. And Deshaun Watson, he's going to be game. He's going to try. But I worry about, because honestly, Houston should win this game. Like, receiver-wise and offensive talent-wise, I think they're every bit as good as Kansas City. I just don't trust Bill O'Brien's play calling, and I just think that the Kansas City linebackers and running backs can do a little bit more than Houston's, coupled with the coaching. It's too much of an advantage. I'm going to go 24-17. Actually, 24-21 will be my final prediction. I think it's going to be close. I think all these games are going to be kind of fun to watch, and they're going to be kind of close at the end. But I think at the end, we pretty much picked home teams all the way throughout, with the exception of me picking Seattle over Green Bay. So I got Kansas City, Baltimore. So do you. I've got Seattle, San Francisco. You've got San Francisco, Green Bay. Now, here's my questioning. If Deshaun Watson beats Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City and then beats Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, the most least talked about quarterback superstar in the AFC might finally get his due. And do you think we're biased, but would that put to bed any doubt that Deshaun Watson is the best young quarterback in the AFC going into those two buildings and winning those two games?
You'd have to put him up there, but still what Patrick Mahomes did last year, winning the MVP, 55 touchdown passes. I mean, they're going to be neck and neck, and it's going to be fun to watch them for the next 10 to 15 years. It pains me to say that, but it's true. So,
Wow.
I mean, they both got good quarterbacks. It's going to be – if Watson does that, that's your next Brady Manning comparison.
Yeah.
And I always say comparison, and I'm not saying it's actually Brady Manning, but that's your next comparison to where you have two quarterbacks who are duking it out every year with each other, basically, and they're gonna end up, meeting a lot of times in the playoffs and in the regular season, because both those teams are gonna be first place for a lot of their time.
Yeah.
A little fun fact about this game is that the Texans have never advanced past the divisional round.
Yeah, it'll be a first, and I don't think it's going to happen this go-around. Last thing, the Rams were interviewing Joe Barry. I believe they interviewed him today. I think that was just a courtesy interview. I cannot imagine Joe Barry getting the D coordinating position after you add Wade Phillips. You're going to go into the new stadium, and you're going to truck out Joe Barry as your D coordinator. I just think, first of all, he's not a good D coordinator. Been there, done that. He's average at best. Secondly, miss me with that nonsense. I know some Ram fans were like, oh, he really helped Littleton and the Rams linebacker. Littleton was a superstar way before Barry was coaching him. So, well, I shouldn't say that. Barry did a nice thing in, coaching him up and getting him up to speed from special teams to starting defense. But it's the kid's talent that really is what put him on the field. You look at the linebackers, they're not out of position, so that's a good thing. But Joe Barry has been a D coordinator before, and his track record is not nearly as good as at least one of the two individuals I brought up last time. But I think it's a courtesy interview. Eric, what do you think?
Well, I think it's more than a courtesy interview. I think he's got a really good shot. I also want to see who else the Rams bring in for their D coordinator position for interviews. And I say that because if they bring in like a couple other no-name guys, then it's pretty much his job to basically lose. If they start bringing in some bigger names, then I'd be like, okay, now they're serious and they're serious about their D coordinator position. So I think this is their first interview for a defensive coordinator. So see who they bring in next, and then you can make that decision.
Sorry, my wife was just cracking me up. I think another one that could be a possible interview is Leslie Frazier, your boy from Chicago. So if you're not getting the idea, the reason...
The Buffalo defensive coordinator?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he'd be leaving Buffalo.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't want to leave Buffalo for Los Angeles and coach the Rams in L.A. with all that talent. I mean, who the hell wants to coach Aaron Donald when you've got nobody in Buffalo. You're right. That would be a horrible idea on Leslie Frazier's part.
Buffalo is about ready to take over the AFC East, so
That's okay. The Rams have taken over the NFC West.
When you're third in the NFC West for a few years, you know,
Okay.
that's a big difference.
Okay. Miss me with that nonsense. We'll talk next year when we're hoisting up the Vince Lombardi trophy. Just saying. And yes, I'm making that prediction now. So.
Who's your offensive line again?
Actually got a lot better after we.
Is Orlando Pace coming back?
Hey, you know what? If you look at the way that O-line played down the stretch after we removed Havenstein, and like I said, we're going to have some money freed up. I don't know how much. Hopefully we spend on an O-line. That's my tentative pick. We got to wait and see what they do in free agency and the draft. Well, in the 4th round when they finally can pick. I digress. Look, here's the bottom line for me. The reason I like a defensive back as a D coordinator in today's football is you've got to get your set. The Rams are set with their front 7. Even if Clay Matthews retires and the Rams lose Brockers, they've got some real good players on that D-line. They've got some real good linebackers. A lot of them were injured. The one linebacker that we got from, I think it was Virginia Tech, might have been Virginia, I can't remember, one of those two, blew his ACL out and wasn't able to play all year. He was the all-time leading tackler in school history. So, you know, the guy can play. We just didn't have him this year because he got dinged up early. Linebacker was just dismantled in the offseason due to injury. But we got a secondary that has potential, and I want to know more about this David Long Jr. Is this kid as good as I think he could be? Because I've seen him look really good, and then I've seen him look Ty Hill bad. So which is it? You know, we got to wait and see. But I think the Rams, if they hire Joe Barry, then I don't think they're taking the defensive coordinating position very seriously. And I think that would be a travesty to the organization moving forward, and it might be grounds to fire Les Snead, to be perfectly honest with you. Although I don't think Les Snead should be in charge of this. I think this has got to be a McVay thing, and I think it probably is a McVay hire. And if he goes with Joe Barry, there needs to be a conversation with him going, what the hell are you doing? How do you go from Wade Phillips to Joe Barry and expect the fans to be excited about it, number one, and number two, how do you justify that? When there are so many other coaches that aren't as good as Wade Phillips that are way better than Joe Barry. John Barry, Joe Barry, I don't even know his friggin' name. I know his last name is Barry. He's the Rams linebacker coach. He's been a D coordinator in the NFL before. He was coordinator with the Redskins. Did okay. But he did okay with a defense that had a lot of talent. So, you know, we got a lot of talent. I don't want an okay defense. That's a recipe for disaster. So I hope he's aware, you know, if Minnesota does lose, Jay Gray is available, go get him. But we'll wait and see what happens. Ideally for me, it would be no one wins the Seattle-Green Bay game. Minnesota plays themselves in the NFC Championship game and goes on to the Super Bowl. If you want an
hilarious.
If you want an ideal scenario, Vikings in the Super Bowl, in the AFC, I wouldn't mind seeing Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans get in, or for that matter, the Tennessee Titans. Either one of those teams. But I'm not going to be mad if Kansas City gets in. God, could you imagine Kansas City, Minnesota? The last time the Vikings went to the Super Bowl, they played Minnesota in 1969 or 1970, technically January of 70, but the 69 season. And this is 2019. Ooh, that could be interesting. I would like to see Minnesota play either Houston or Tennessee. I'd take Kansas City as a third option because, as I told Eric, in the last 20 years, forget the quarterbacks. Okay, forget the quarterbacks. There's been, other than the Raiders, one of these teams have been in the Super Bowl for the AFC. Indianapolis, Denver, New England, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. That's it. in 20 years. And if the Titans make it, then since 99, only one of those teams have made it. So, you know, the NFL really does need a shot in the arm, because I'll tell you something. The XFL is coming, Eric. And I saw their uniforms. I watched their draft coverage from this group called Chalk Talk. They're XFL hired YouTube guys, I'm guessing, just based on the quality of their content. If they're not, these guys are amazing, and I'm envious, and I need to get a hold of them and find out how they do what they do, because these guys look like they're studio-styled professional. Like this is the only thing they do for a living, and they're paid well to do it because they've got all the bells and whistles and whatnot. And maybe it's just that they know how to manipulate the electronics way better than I do, but they're worth your time. So if you want some XFL updates, and you know we're not posting as frequently as you want, and you want some XFL exclusive stuff, these guys definitely have inside information because they interviewed Oliver Luck. One of them did. So that's why I think they're XFL hired. But their uniforms came out, and their uniforms look tight. The LA Wildcats, in my opinion, have the second best uniforms. I'll save my number one for when Eric and I do the show. But all the uniforms. I mean, the logo that you were least impressed with ended up with one of the sweetest looking uniforms. The uniforms all look fantastic. The players that they brought in, the number one draft pick was a kid named Rashard Davis from James Madison University. Now, I'm a Black Bear fan, and I watch a lot of Black Bear football. I know Rashard Davis. This dude is a stud. He's only 5'9", but he's a stud. And that was the number one overall pick in the XFL draft. They got a bunch of guys from the AAF. This thing looks like it's coming in with some mo. And it might not be that hard to go Deuces NFL, I'm XFL. It really may not be, because the quality that's coming out of this league just starting up makes the AAF look pedestrian at best and pathetic. The rules are amazing and interesting. I don't know if I like them yet, but they're definitely interesting. They're trying to bring back the kickoff and the punt return, which is really cool. I'm excited. I haven't been this excited for a start of a new league, I think, ever. I wasn't blown away with the World League. I wasn't blown away with the World Football League. I wasn't blown away with that was Donald Trump's first endeavor into sports when he tried that whole world, or whatever that was, the U.S. football, USFL. You know, and this, you know, this last AF debauchery, I wasn't excited, but I'm on the edge of my seat, and I'm like, hurry up, Super Bowl. I want to see what these guys got, because the league looks like it's legit. Me and Eric are going to do a show Sunday covering the uniforms, and we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of the players. I'll go into more depth on Rashard Davis. I also want to go into depth on one of the quarterbacks that got drafted as well, and kind of get into their quarterbacks a little bit, because this league looks like it's going to be a hodgepodge of running and passing. You know, you're going to have your passing teams, and it looks like you're going to have your balanced teams, and I'm curious if there's going to be anybody who's run-focused. But I'm excited for it, E. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it, see what they have. I mean, we're also going to go over some of the rules, because there's no more extra points. So, you know, we can go over what they're going to do, no type of after a touchdown. You know, all the rules that's going to make the XFL stand out and be different than the NFL. Quick question on the playoff games this weekend. How great of a storyline would it be if the AFC Championship was Tennessee at Houston?
Dude, I'm telling you, right? That's what I'm hoping for, to be honest with you.
I would love for one of them to bring out the old Oilers uniforms.
Well, the only one that could do that in theory is Tennessee, and it would be
technically.
And it would be funny because it would be in Houston. You imagine how loud that stadium would boo the Oilers? I'm sorry, the Titans for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be hysterically I would do it. I'm that big of a dick. I would do it if I was Vrabel.
I would anonymously invite Earl Campbell and see which sideline he stands on.
Dude, that's nuts. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. That would be one hell of a storyline. And I think Seattle, San Francisco would be one hell of a storyline because everyone, look, for me, I think Seattle, San Francisco, it's what should happen because that's been the best division all year long. I mean, the third place team would have won the division, would have won the NFC East, and would have been second or better in every other division. So, well, in the South, they still would have been third in the West. I mean, in the North, but it's been the best division in football. It just has been. But I guess if it's Green Bay, Minnesota, one would argue no, it wasn't. So there is that. But I think it would be interesting. I think it would be. I think that those are the two best teams in the NFC, and I think that would be neat. And to see Tennessee against Houston would be one heck of a storyline. But I'm rooting like hell for a Minnesota Kansas City Super Bowl now that I think about it, or Houston. Houston first, Kansas City second. Whoever wins this game, I'm rooting for in the championship game. I
guess we'll know really quick if that Minnesota San Francisco game.
Yeah,
it's one of the first ones to play.
It's the first game. It's the first game tomorrow, and I fully expect the Niners to win, as I made in my prediction. But I'll be watching intently. All right, guys, we'll talk on the next show about the XFL. A couple of things coming forward. I've got some ideas I'm going to run by with Eric here shortly, and if he agrees with them, then we will introduce that in the next show. In the meantime, I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
Horns up.
Hair down.
And go Rams!